morning, everybody. I am Laura Blacklaws and I'm the co-founder of the Women's Marketing Club. Thank you so much for taking time out today to listen to our latest podcast. Now, this one I'm really, really excited about because our speaker today is Carol Hanson. Carol is now a friend of mine, I'm really pleased to say. I've met her on the networking circuit probably about 2 years ago, and due to another kind of self-development group that we're a part of, I've learned more about Carol and her journey. So I'm really excited for her to be joining us today. So before I formally introduce her, I'm going to explain a little bit more about what Carol does. So she inspires women who have a wardrobe full of clothes but nothing to wear. As a personal stylist, she loves to help her clients to learn how to look and feel fabulous every time they get dressed. Now, ladies, I don't know about you, but my wardrobe is full of stuff that I probably need to get rid of. Carol is also the founder of Euphoria, which is a brand of luxurious faux fur fashion accessories made in the UK by a social enterprise that helps disadvantaged women. And then finally, as if that wasn't enough, in her spare time, Carol also runs Wagalot, which is a home-from-home dog boarding business. As a passionate dog lover, Carol's at her happiest out walking in the countryside with a pack of dogs. Now, if you ask me, that's a lot. She's an amazing woman, and now I'm going to introduce you to her. So, Carol, an amazing biography there. What have I missed?
You haven't really missed anything, Laura. Thank you very much. I'm sitting here feeling very humbled that you've introduced me like that, and I'm delighted to be speaking to you today. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, you are exactly the kind of businesswoman who we're looking to talk to, mainly because your experience is personal to you, but I think so many other business women, whether they're starting out for the first time or they've been in the corporate world and have an idea, I think you're the kind of person that they're going to be looking to because you have so much experience and so much knowledge. So I guess the first place to start is what inspired you to set up on your own?
Well, let me talk in respect of Euphoria, which is my faux fur fashion accessories brand. And that goes back to my grandmother. My grandmother was an avid hunter in bargain sales and charity sales. And when I was still a teenager, many years ago, she bought me a little furry jacket in a charity sale for just 50 pence. And I wore that jacket for a bit. And then I decided to cut the sleeves off the jacket. And I was wearing it as a gilet, and then I decided, well, what am I going to do with the sleeves? So I pulled them on over a pair of jeans, and I created my first pair of furry leggings. And that, she really was my inspiration, not just in the sense that she bought me that little jacket, but she was an absolute fighter and was never still for a moment, and just really enjoyed. She was never self-employed or anything like that. She wasn't really of the right generation. She came from a mining background, but she'd always worked hard through her life. And then she was a political campaigner as well. So she was a marvellous inspiration in terms of work ethic.
Fantastic. And she sounds like a huge inspiration as well for our listeners too. It shows that even if you did come from a background that wasn't traditionally corporate or even entrepreneurial, she still had an idea and she was still very headstrong and knew what she wanted.
Oh yeah, she was. And by the way, she lived until she was 107. Wow. And she moved when she was 99 years old from Hertfordshire down to Dorset to be with near one of her other children. And she was actually moved by my cousin in a horse box. So they packed all her furniture up in a horse box, and Grandma sat up in the front seat next to Tim, the driver, and they drove off down to the south coast.
Fantastic. So we're talking about Euphoria now, but with your styling business, do you think that has also contributed to the idea of setting up Euphoria? Was it?
I think probably go back one step on that, because I had the online boutique before I had the styling business, and it was learning a lot about how to run a business online and how not to run a business online as well. That taught me a lot, that has enabled me to set up Euphoria. The other things that have helped as inspiration, if you like, have been meeting the right people and it's not just a case of the right people at the right time, but it's being open to things in terms of meeting up with people. And you know this because you and I are both avid networkers, that you can set up and have a conversation with someone and you think at first, oh, I'm not really sure why I've set this meeting up, because it's I can't see what I'm going to get from it. But it's amazing, those gems and things that you pick up, and maybe their contacts and so on, that can then be an inspiration for you later.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing as well with networking, is you could have met somebody 2 years ago who at the time didn't really seem relevant to your business.
Yeah.
And suddenly you think, hold on, I met someone 2 years ago who now is
Yeah.
very relevant with my business, and get back.
Absolutely. And that is one of the ups. I have a lot of upsides and downsides about social media, but that's one of the great things about social media. It's a good way of keeping in contact with people like that, you know, maybe you don't want to be sending them emails on a regular basis, but you know, chatting to them occasionally or getting back in touch with them on social media is a great way of reactivating those contacts.
Absolutely. And would you say that those kind of nurturing the relationships are what helps to attract more clients to your business and to you? Or would you focus more on social media? Like, what's the kind of...
No, I think nurturing is a networking, a very key to my business. Certainly on my personal styling business, I think probably 90% of my clients come through networking, whether that's directly through networking or through recommendations through networking. And that's all about building up that know, like, trust factor. You know, when somebody's going to open their wardrobe up to you, it's a very personal thing for them to do. And if they've got issues about their body image or lack of self-confidence, then you don't want to just do it with someone that you've met on social media. It's much more personal and requiring to build up that connection. I also do a fair amount of public speaking as well. And that helps as well, because again, you're out there putting yourself forward. And I'm also very honest about my own journey too, and the fact that I had an eating disorder for over 20 years. And that gives me a certain empathy with people in terms of body confidence and issues they may have about self-esteem and their appearance.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important as well, especially as a stylist, is you can get real with people because you've been there. Like you understand them from a place of low self-esteem and self-doubt. So you're kind of on their journey with them. And that's so powerful. I can't say I've ever actually used a stylist, but I imagine that if you were to go into a department store and book a time with the stylist, I imagine it's kind of quick, let's get them in as many different kind of outfits as possible and see how much we can sell. Whereas with you, I imagine it's much more relaxed. They're inviting you into their home. You know, you're going shopping with them. It's more one-to-one, more personable, and you understand them as a person.
Absolutely. And I always say to anyone, if all you're looking for is a personal shopping experience, then I would recommend that you go to a John Lewis or a Debenhams or House of Fraser and use one of their personal shoppers, because that's not what I'm about. I'm about much deeper than that. I won't do a personal shopping trip with someone unless I've helped them with their styling. So it's really important to me to help to understand their styling personality, to understand much more about them, what kind of helps shape their views on shopping, their views on clothes, get behind some of the psychological things and some of the barriers that we've had instilled at us by our early influences, even by our parents. You know, if you're always bought things from the bargain rail or told that, no, you can't have that, it's too expensive when you're a child, what does that do to your feelings of self-worth and value when you become an adult?
No, of course, absolutely. And would you say that there was a piece of advice that's really helped drive you forward in your business, or has it been more kind of age and experience, do you think?
Age and experience has certainly played a part, but I would say that the best piece of advice, and it took me a while to take this on board, is know your customer. When I ran the online boutique, I simply didn't get this ideal client principle and thought that I could just market to everyone. And if you try and market to everyone, then you market to no one. And my styling business in particular helped me to really overcome this side of it, because I was working on a one-to-one basis. And as I started to realize who it was I enjoyed working with and who best responded to me, I could really build that client profile up. So people who say, oh, I don't have a target market, or I don't want to narrow my niche, I'm sorry, it's not like that. You can't, even when you're selling tins of baked beans, you're talking to a certain person. And you need to understand who your customer is. I also hid behind the fact that at first I thought I had to pretend that when I had the online boutique that it was actually a big corporation. So I'd always talk in terms of we and, you know, head office and things like that, stupid things that I thought people were after. But what people are actually after is buying from people. And when I broke those barriers down and started to show more of myself, that's when I realized, oh God, I wish I'd listened to all these people who started talking to me about ideal clients and telling me about I needed to have my ideal client avatar and everything. Yeah, I would say to you, that's the best thing that you need to do. You really need to decide in business who is your client, because it isn't everybody.
No, sure. And that's something that personally I've been through as well. Is you think, oh, I don't need to realise my customer avatar. Why does it matter? And the more time you spend developing that, the easier it actually becomes to then attract that target client, because you know exactly who you're looking for. And it can start as loosely as women over 40.
Yeah.
And then if you just kind of keep driving down through the layers, then eventually, you know, your customer avatar can have a name. You know, it can be Susan, Letitia, her own sense of style and her own brand.
Yep. And I've got that as well. You know, I've got my client avatar kind of mapped out, very much based on the clients that I've really enjoyed working with and have got the most from me. You know, she's got a name. I know what television programs she watches. I know the types of books she likes to read, where she hangs out on social media, all of that kind of stuff. And you're right, it just makes that whole messaging piece so much easier.
And I think from personal experience, you're almost kind of scared to pinpoint down to that kind of detail, because you think, oh no, what about all these people that I'm then discounting or not including? But
yeah, absolutely true, and that is the natural sort of fear. But you will attract people outside of that orbit of your ideal client, and if you don't attract people outside that orbit, that's fine, and you need to learn to be okay with that, because they're not really the right people for you.
No, of course, absolutely not. Well, I mean, this advice is amazing, and I'm sure our listeners today are literally going to be writing down pages and pages of notes. So it's been huge. Also, it sounds like it's been an incredibly positive journey for you up until now, but I'm sure there have been some challenges along the way. Is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners to help them overcome anything similar?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem I had to overcome has been to admit to myself that the online boutique, the general boutique, wasn't working, and I couldn't make it work financially. And for someone that is incredibly tenacious, to be able to turn around and say, and also just to someone that just doesn't like giving up or saying that she can't do something, to turn around and say, enough's enough. This is a numbers game and it's just not stacking up. I've got to admit that this isn't right. I had to detach myself from it personally and learn not to take it as a personal failure.
Yeah.
And that took some doing to do that. But equally, I don't regret the opportunities it gave me, the people I met, the fact that I got into public speaking. I was invited to speak twice at Pure London, which is the biggest trade fashion event. The fact that I got into doing some guest lectures at the University of Hertfordshire, and most importantly, that the Euphoria range is actually now taking responsibility for the manufacturing of the Euphoria product, as well as helping me on product development.
Fantastic.
So no, I don't. But I think it's learning when to say enough is enough. It's not a case of giving up too soon, but it's equally you need to put a reality check in of giving something a chance, but then when it's not a chance, when it's not working, having those milestones in place that you can turn around and say no.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest learning when you're on your own and you're self-employed is that you're not necessarily failing, you're learning along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish it hadn't been quite such an expensive experience for me. And I could have used the money in different ways, but as I say, I don't actually regret it, because it's got me to where I am now.
Sure. I think that's really wise, and I think it's really important actually for women of all stages of their career and their business to understand that it's okay not to be perfect, and it's absolutely fine to sometimes make mistakes if you're learning from them. Absolutely.
The only problem is when you start making the same mistakes over again, because then you're obviously not learning.
No, of course. Which can also happen sometimes too.
Yes, it can.
Brilliant. So, if there was one piece of advice that you had to share, what do you think it would be?
I think it's, remember that although it's a lonely journey out there, or it can feel like a lonely journey, you're not on your own. And the best piece of advice I've got is get yourself out there, and in terms of support groups, and particularly for women, what I've found is that female-only networking groups have really worked for me, not just because of what I do, but in terms of the amount of support that they give, that women have a natural desire to lift each other up, and to be there as a shoulder to cry on, and someone to have a laugh with and tear your hair out with, and also offer you some really good advice as well. So yeah, it's don't think that, although you might be a solo entrepreneur, don't think that you're on your own, because you're not.
Brilliant. And that's something that we can all learn from. Even in corporate, I think it's still important
Absolutely
to have a network of really close girlfriends or mentors who you can bounce ideas off of, and just know that if things do go wrong, it's still fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the best things I did last year is I got involved in a couple of mastermind groups, and which are really, one was with a structured program, and the other one was, which was good. And then the other one, which is ongoing, is with a peer support group, where we just meet on a regular basis, and we're always there for each other as well. And we all have very different businesses, very different stages of our businesses, but it's great to have that input from other people who see things from a totally different angle from you as well.
And it all helps, because when you are a solopreneur, you can't know everything, and you can't know everyone, so you need this kind of close knit network of people you can collaborate with and just learn from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. So before we wrap up our podcast today, is there a book that you have read that has really helped you along your journey?
Yeah, interesting, there is. It's the biography of Sophie Amoruso, who set up Nasty Girl. When I read about her, and I've read several articles about her, she doesn't sound a particularly nice character. But having read her autobiography, and what she went through to set up the brand, it kind of helps you see that a brand journey is really quite a challenge, and that's been really inspiring. And the other one that I really enjoyed, because I'm going to have more than one, was the Glitter Girls, which was the story of Juicy Couture. Wow. Which was also really interesting as well. So yes, my interest is very much in fashion brands, building fashion brands up, but I find that the store, because about 95% of all fashion brands fail within the first year, it's really interesting to read how successful entrepreneurs have managed to make it work, and the mistakes that they've made along the way and how they've dealt with them.
I think it's just interesting. I mean, for myself, running my own business, books don't always have to be about the industry that I'm in. And a lot
No, of course not.
You learn more from reading about books from completely different industries, because it's what you take away from them, isn't it, that makes the impact?
Oh, Absolutely, yeah, and I quite like listening to audiobooks as well, and particularly when they are read by the author or autobiographies. So, Richard Branson's story is really interesting as well, and stuff like that, because it's just, as you say, it's just getting a totally different perspective on something, but it's still an entrepreneurial journey.
Absolutely, no, that's brilliant. And I think actually the takeout from the podcast today is the entrepreneurial journey doesn't have to be one that's lonely.
No, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, Carol, thank you so much for your time today. I think it's been incredibly inspiring. For me, I absolutely love fashion. So every time I talk to you and learn more about you, I get even more excited about looking at my wardrobe. So I'm sure other women have felt the same. If any of our listeners did want to get in touch with you about any of your businesses, what's the best way to do so?
Probably just to drop me an email at carol@wantheroutfit.com. That's CAROL @wantheroutfit.com. Or you can find me on social media. In particular, Facebook is the platform I'm on most, as Carol Hanson. Or you can check in with the Want Her Outfit or Euphoria or Wagalot pages.
Brilliant. Well, you have a lot on your plate. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you again for your time, and we'll hear from you again soon.
Thanks for letting me come on to the interview, Laura. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Carol. Have a good day.
And you. Bye-bye.